Captain Elias Drayton stood at the observation deck of the space station, Aurora 7, his hands resting lightly on the railing as he watched distant stars streak past. The station orbited a young blue star, surrounded by a cluster of gas clouds that glimmered like jewels in the darkness. Though he had traveled across dozens of star systems, there was something about the way this star shimmered that made him feel small and yet part of something larger. His attention, however, was not on the stars. It was on her. Lyra, the Andari diplomat, moved gracefully through the station's corridors, her long, slender limbs giving her an almost liquid motion. Her skin shimmered faintly in the artificial light, shifting colors that hinted at her mood, a natural trait of her species. Humans had learned to read some of it, but not all, and Elias knew that trying to interpret her fully would be like trying to understand a river's flow with a single glance. He had first met Lyra 3 weeks ago when she arrived for diplomatic talks with the Terran Alliance. The Andari were known for their intelligence, subtlety, and patience. They rarely acted without careful thought. Lyra, however, had a spark. There was curiosity in her eyes, a quiet but persistent interest in humans and their peculiar ways. Elias remembered their first encounter clearly. He had been showing her the station's zero-gravity garden, a human attempt at recreating Earth-like vegetation for morale purposes. She had watched, fascinated, as a floating vine twisted and uncoiled in the artificial gravity. "Your species is unusual," she had said in her soft, melodic voice. "You create life in places where it would not naturally exist, and then you find ways to make it thrive." Elias had chuckled. "That's one way to put it. We like challenges." That moment had stayed with him. There was a subtle challenge in her words, too, a kind of unspoken invitation to prove humanity's worth in ways she had not yet imagined. Now, 3 weeks later, Elias felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. He had made his decision. Today, he would ask her out. Not in the casual, formal way humans sometimes asked colleagues for coffee, but in the human way of dating, an experience of shared time, conversation, and perhaps laughter. He took a deep breath. "Just do it," he muttered under his breath. "What's the worst that could happen?" Elias made his way through the station's corridors, careful not to attract attention. Station personnel were busy with daily tasks, checking systems, and moving cargo between docking bays. The station was a hub of activity, home to thousands of humans, aliens, and hybrids, each with their own duties. Yet, despite the crowd, his eyes were locked on Lyra as she approached the observation deck. "Captain Drayton," she said when she noticed him, her tone polite but curious. Her eyes flicked toward his uniform as if considering his mood, his intentions. "Lyra," he replied, keeping his voice steady though his heart beat faster. I wanted to ask you something." She tilted her head slightly, her way of signaling that she was listening closely. Elias took a deep breath and spoke. "Would you like to have dinner with me tonight?" He waited. The station's hum seemed louder now, the distant lights from outside blurring into streaks. Lyra's response was not immediate. She paused, her shimmering skin shifting subtly through shades Elias didn't fully understand. He knew that hesitation in an Andari was never simple. It was calculation, reflection, and observation all at once. "I see," she said finally, her voice calm. "You are proposing a human ritual of shared sustenance as a form of social engagement." Elias nodded. "Yes, dinner, just the two of us, in a human style." Lyra's eyes studied him. She tilted her head again, then straightened, a gesture that indicated she was processing the unfamiliar concept. Humans had rituals of connection that were almost alien to her species. To ask someone out in this way could be bold, reckless, or flattering, depending on interpretation. "I must admit," she said slowly, "this is unprecedented in Andari culture. We do not engage in rituals resembling human courtship. Yet," she paused, "your courage is notable." Elias felt a mixture of relief and tension. He had expected politeness, maybe refusal, but her words carried a spark of possibility. "Yet," he asked, trying to keep his tone casual. "Yet," she repeated, "I would be interested in understanding this human ritual if it can be framed as an educational exercise." Elias blinked. "Educational exercise?" "Yes," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "I do not fully understand your customs. But your proposition demonstrates a type of courage and openness that I find intriguing." Elias tried not to grin, though he failed. "So you'll come?" "Perhaps," she said, "if it can also serve a purpose beyond simple recreation." He swallowed. That was Lyra speak for yes, I'll come, but don't expect it to be a normal dinner. He could live with that. Fine, he said, finally allowing himself a smile. It's a date of sorts. The rest of the day was a blur for Elias. He moved through his duties, but his thoughts kept drifting to Lyra and the strange adventure that awaited. He wondered what she would think of human cuisine, of small talk, of laughter. He wondered if she would float a bite of food in zero gravity or examine the textures with scientific curiosity. Even as the station buzzed around him, Elias felt a quiet thrill. He was not just representing humanity as a captain or a diplomat. He was showing something more personal: boldness, curiosity, and the desire to connect, even across species. By evening, the zero-gravity restaurant was prepared. Lights glimmered gently, soft music played, and a few human and alien patrons floated in booths secured by magnetic grips. Elias arrived first, choosing a spot near the observation window where the stars outside stretched endlessly. He could see nebulae glowing in the distance, streaks of light from faraway ships, and the curve of the blue star that bathed the station in a pale light. Lyra arrived shortly after, moving with her usual elegance. She regarded the setup with quiet interest, eyes flicking over each detail. "You have prepared this," she said, almost as a statement, not a question. "Yes," Elias replied. "I wanted it to be human-style, comfortable, simple, but interesting." Her skin shimmered in soft shades of blue and green, which Elias had learned indicated curiosity. She studied the floating food, small portions suspended in zero-gravity cubes. Elias offered her a floating bite of protein gel, and she examined it before taking it with careful precision. "It is acceptable," she said finally, a faint smile touching her lips. "Though I do not yet understand the full purpose of this ritual." "Maybe you will by the end," Elias said, hopeful. As the meal progressed, they exchanged stories of their lives, their travels, and their experiences. Lyra spoke of her world, a planet of flowing cities and interconnected thought networks. Elias shared tales of Earth, of oceans, forests, and human stubbornness in the face of impossible odds. With each story, Lyra's curiosity grew, and Elias found himself increasingly fascinated by her perspectives. He realized that the dinner, though unconventional by human standards, was turning into something far richer, a bridge between two worlds. By the time the meal ended, Elias understood one thing clearly: this was only the beginning. Their connection, tentative and unusual, held a spark that could lead to discoveries far beyond what either had imagined. And as he watched her shimmer in the soft light of the observation deck, he felt a thrill at the thought of the journey ahead, both across the stars and in the strange, wonderful terrain of understanding another being. Elias did not know what the next step would bring. But he knew this: asking her out had been bold, uncertain, and exhilarating. And sometimes the greatest adventures began with a single, daring question. The next morning, the space station Aurora 7 hummed with life. Engineers floated between the modules, checking engines and communication relays. Traders and diplomats moved swiftly, and humans and aliens mingled in the common areas, exchanging news from distant worlds. Captain Elias Drayton felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. Today, he would meet Lyra again, but this time not for a dinner. Lyra had sent a message that morning. It was precise, formal, and distinctly Andari in tone. She would meet him, she said, but not for the purpose he had imagined. Instead, she proposed a shared task that could serve as both an educational experience and an opportunity to understand human behavior. Elias had read the message several times. At first, he had been slightly disappointed. No ordinary dinner, no casual conversation over zero-gravity gel. But as he thought about it, a sense of anticipation grew. A task, an opportunity to explore the unknown, that was more human than any dinner could ever be. By mid-morning, he made his way to the docking bay where Lyra had arranged their meeting. She was already there, floating calmly beside her personal shuttle. The soft glimmer of her skin shifted gently, signaling her mood, or perhaps her assessment of him. "Captain Drayton," she said as he approached. Her voice carried the same calm melody as always, but with a hint of something Elias could not quite identify. "Lyra," he replied, keeping his voice steady. "You said something about a shared task?" "Yes," she said, floating closer. "There is a region of space nearby that remains largely unexplored. Sensors have detected unusual readings, energy fluctuations, strange gravitational patterns, and signals that do not match any known species. I propose we investigate. It will require collaboration, and your species' creativity may be useful. Elias felt his heart leap. This was far beyond anything he had imagined. No dinner could have offered this level of excitement or challenge. "We explore together?" he asked, almost unsure if he had understood. "Yes," she replied, her eyes steady. "It will be a test of cooperation, judgment, and adaptability, and it may provide insight into your species' unique capabilities." Elias smiled, feeling a surge of pride. Humans had long been underestimated in interstellar affairs, often seen as unpredictable or primitive, and here was Lyra, an advanced alien seeking human input. "Then let's do it," he said firmly. "I accept your challenge." Lyra nodded, and they boarded her shuttle together. The interior was sleek and minimalistic, with panels glowing softly. Elias felt a thrill as he sat in the co-pilot's seat, his hands hovering over controls he was not entirely familiar with. Lyra guided him with gentle instructions, teaching him to adjust the shuttle's trajectory, calibrate the sensors, and monitor energy fluctuations. As they left the station and entered the dark void beyond, Elias couldn't help but admire Lyra's efficiency. She moved smoothly between tasks, her eyes scanning readouts and displays with precision. Yet, there was a hint of amusement in her glimmering eyes whenever Elias' human impulsiveness led to a creative, though slightly unconventional, solution. Hours passed as they approached the coordinates Lyra had provided. The space around them seemed empty at first, a black void dotted with distant stars. Then, gradually, anomalies began to appear. Light bent oddly around clusters of asteroids, forming shimmering patterns that made Elias feel as though he were looking through a warped window. Strange energy readings pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. "This region," Lyra said softly, "is not fully mapped. Its properties are unusual. Your species' intuition may detect patterns that sensors cannot." Elias leaned closer to the control panel, squinting at the readings. He had a gut feeling about one particular energy pulse. It fluctuated differently than the others, with irregular peaks. "I think there's something there," he said, pointing at the display. "It's subtle, but it's not random." Lyra studied the readout, her eyes narrowing in thought. After a moment, she said, "You may be correct. Humans often notice anomalies in ways our logic-based systems do not. We shall investigate further." They navigated closer to the source of the pulse. As they approached, a massive structure emerged from the darkness. It was unlike anything Elias had ever seen, a floating city of alien design, suspended in space, with towers that glowed faintly and bridges that curved in impossible angles. Energy flowed around it like rivers of light. "It is magnificent," Elias whispered, awestruck. "Who built it? That is unknown," Lyra replied, her voice calm but carrying a note of reverence. "Records indicate that it may be ancient, possibly predating known interstellar civilizations. No species currently inhabits it, but its systems remain active." Elias felt a chill of excitement. Here was a mystery beyond his wildest dreams. Humans were explorers, problem solvers, and inventors. This was the kind of discovery that tested every human instinct for curiosity and ingenuity. "Shall we dock?" he asked. "Yes," Lyra said, "but caution is necessary. The energy fields are unstable. Your species' adaptability will be essential." They maneuvered carefully, avoiding the shifting energy streams. Elias felt his pulse quicken as they entered the structure's outer docking bay. The interior was vast, a combination of organic curves and technological precision. Walls pulsed with light, and strange devices hovered silently, defying gravity. "Stay close," Lyra advised, floating ahead with controlled movements. "Sensors indicate fluctuating gravitational fields. Sudden shifts are possible." Elias followed, marveling at the alien architecture. Every step revealed new wonders: floors that seemed to ripple like liquid, panels that responded to thought, and corridors that twisted in ways that defied conventional geometry. As they explored, they encountered a series of puzzles: energy gates, floating platforms, and sequences of symbols that needed to be arranged in specific patterns. Lyra watched closely as Elias approached them, noticing the human tendency to experiment, sometimes impulsively, often creatively. "You think differently," she said, almost to herself. "Your methods are unorthodox yet effective." Elias smiled. "That's humans for you." We try, we fail, we try again. Sometimes it works. Together, they solved the first set of puzzles, the energy gates activating in synchronized patterns, opening pathways deeper into the structure. The sense of teamwork grew stronger, each relying on the other's strengths. Lyra's precision complemented Elia's intuition, and Elia's creativity unlocked solutions that Lyra's logic alone might not have achieved. As they progressed, Elias began to understand something important. This mission was not just a test of their abilities. It was a bridge between species, a chance to show that humanity, despite being relatively young in the galactic timeline, could contribute in meaningful, unique ways. And Lyra's openness to collaboration meant that human ingenuity was respected, even by one of the most advanced alien races he had ever encountered. Hours turned into what felt like minutes as they moved through the structure. Finally, they reached a chamber at the center, a vast, circular space filled with holographic projections. Stars, planets, and constellations rotated slowly in midair, overlaid with patterns of energy that pulsed in rhythm with the chamber itself. This, Lyra said, her voice tinged with awe, may be a record of the civilization that built this place. Their knowledge is vast, but encoded in ways our species have not fully decoded. Perhaps your human perspective can uncover patterns unseen. Elias stepped forward, examining the projections. He felt a sense of responsibility and pride. Humans had always adapted to the unknown, solving problems through creativity, intuition, and persistence. This was another opportunity to prove that. He reached out, touching one of the holographic stars. The energy rippled beneath his fingers, responding to his human instinct to explore. Symbols shifted, pathways opened, and new patterns emerged. Lyra observed silently, her glimmering skin shifting to colors that indicated approval and intrigue. "You are effective," she said softly. "Your species' approach is different yet complementary. It is valuable." Elias felt a rush of satisfaction. Not just pride in his own abilities, but in humanity. Humans were often underestimated, but here, their courage, curiosity, and creativity were making a difference on a galactic scale. As the chamber's patterns revealed an ancient map of nearby systems and energy sources, Elias realized that this mission, originally proposed as a substitute for a dinner, had become something extraordinary. It was a partnership, a test, and an adventure all at once. And at the center of it was the bond between a human and an alien, forged through mutual respect, curiosity, and courage. By the time they returned to the shuttle, both were exhausted but exhilarated. Elias glanced at Lyra, noticing a faint glow of amusement and appreciation. "You handled yourself well," she said. "Your species' creativity contributed greatly. I had not anticipated such results." Elias laughed softly. "Guess humans are full of surprises," Lyra's eyes shimmered. "Indeed, perhaps this collaboration can be the first of many." Elias nodded, feeling a thrill of anticipation for the future. Their mission had begun as an unexpected response to a bold invitation. Now it had grown into an adventure that tested skill, ingenuity, and courage, and had revealed the unique value of humanity in the vast, mysterious galaxy. And for Elias, that was more rewarding than any dinner or ritual could ever have been. The stars outside the shuttle stretched endlessly as Captain Elias Drayton and Lyra navigated back to the station. The mission had been more than a simple exploration. It had become a test of skill, courage, and collaboration. Yet, Elias could not shake a feeling that the true challenge was still ahead. Lyra's ship glided silently through the void, sensors scanning for residual energy fluctuations in the uncharted region. The ancient structure they had explored seemed inactive now, yet the energy signatures indicated something had shifted within its systems. "We have gathered significant data," Lyra said, her voice calm but measured. "However, the core energy field remains unstable. It may collapse without careful intervention." Elias felt a thrill of urgency. Humans thrived under pressure, and he had learned to trust his instincts. "What can we do?" he asked. "You will need to act decisively," Lyra replied. "The patterns are complex, but your species' intuition may reveal solutions our systems cannot predict." Elias leaned over the control panel, scanning the projections. Streams of energy pulsed like veins of light, forming intricate patterns that shifted constantly. He could see the problem forming. One wrong move could destabilize the entire structure, possibly erasing centuries of alien knowledge. "This is our chance to prove humans are adaptable," Elias said quietly, mostly to himself. Lyra's eyes flickered with approval. Your determination is noted. Proceed carefully. They maneuvered closer to the central hub of the ancient structure, where the energy readings were strongest. Elias guided the shuttle alongside Lyra's, their movements synchronized. He reached for the control interface, a holographic panel that responded to touch and thought. The symbols on the display shifted unpredictably, but something in Elias' instincts guided him. He traced the flow of energy, redirecting pulses with careful adjustments, each move requiring precision, creativity, and patience. Lyra observed silently, occasionally making small corrections but leaving the majority of the work to Elias. Your approach is unconventional, she said, yet it aligns with the system's rhythm. Continue. Hours passed as they worked together, human intuition blending with Andari logic. Every success led to new challenges. A sudden spike in energy, an unexpected fluctuation, a sequence of symbols that refused to align. Yet Elias persisted, trying combinations, adjusting angles, thinking not like a machine but like a human, curious, adaptive, and bold. Finally, the energy streams began to stabilize. The pulses synchronized, flowing smoothly through the structure as if it had come alive once more. Elias and Lyra exchanged a glance of quiet triumph. It is remarkable, Lyra said softly, her skin glowing faint shades of green and blue, the Andari equivalent of admiration. Your species' creativity has restored balance. Elias felt a surge of pride. Humans had been underestimated for centuries by countless civilizations, often dismissed as reckless or primitive. Yet here, in the presence of one of the galaxy's most advanced species, his actions had proven their unique value. You did it, Elias said with a smile. Together we did it, Lyra nodded. Indeed, cooperation has revealed strengths in both species. I am impressed. The ancient structure hummed softly, its systems fully stabilized. Holographic displays showed the alien civilization's knowledge preserved, energy flows harmonized, and previously unreadable signals now accessible. Elias realized they had unlocked something incredible, a repository of information that could expand understanding for countless species. As they prepared to return to the station, Elias took a moment to reflect. What had started as a simple invitation for a human-style dinner had evolved into an adventure that tested intellect, courage, and creativity. It had forged a bond of respect between human and Andari, proving that collaboration could achieve what neither species could accomplish alone. Lyra's gaze shifted toward him, her tone softer than usual. Captain Drayton, when you first asked about dinner, I did not understand your intentions fully. But this mission has provided insight into your species' qualities. Courage, persistence, creativity, you humans are remarkable in ways our logic alone cannot predict. Elias felt a warmth spread through him. For so long, humans had been underestimated, dismissed, or overlooked. And now, in the eyes of Lyra, one of the galaxy's most intelligent beings, humanity's true value was recognized. Thank you, Lyra, he said quietly. Your guidance made this possible, and I think I understand your perspective better now, too. She gave a subtle nod. Indeed, and this shared experience may be the foundation for further collaboration, perhaps more than just between you and me, perhaps between our species. The shuttle glided silently through the void, returning to the orbiting station. As they approached, the familiar lights of Aurora 7 came into view, a comforting reminder of home. Docking procedures completed, they exited the shuttle and moved through the corridors, both reflecting on the journey. Elias realized that while humans were capable of great technological achievements, it was their intuition, creativity, and courage that truly set them apart. Lyra had acknowledged this through her words and her trust, validating humanity's potential on a galactic stage. Later, in the observation deck of the station, they watched the stars stretch into the distance. Elias turned to Lyra, feeling a sense of connection that went beyond species or culture. You know, he said, I thought asking you out was the boldest thing I'd ever do. I was wrong. Lyra's eyes shimmered faintly, a subtle reflection of amusement. Indeed. Courage manifests in many ways. Today you demonstrated it not only in words but in actions. You faced the unknown and succeeded. Elias smiled. So what does that make us? Partners in exploration, friends? Her skin shifted to a soft green, the Andari equivalent of a warm smile. Both, and perhaps more, But time will reveal the depth of this connection. For now, let it be mutual respect and understanding. As they gazed at the stars, Elias felt a sense of wonder. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, dangers, and possibilities. Humans were small in the cosmic scale, but capable of extraordinary achievements when they acted with courage and ingenuity. Lyra's recognition reinforced what he had always believed. Humans could rise to any challenge, no matter how daunting. Over the next days, the station buzzed with activity as scientists and diplomats analyzed the data Elias and Lyra had brought back. The energy patterns, ancient records, and new discoveries promised to reshape understanding of interstellar civilizations. Elias found himself in meetings, sharing insights with humans and aliens alike, his perspective valued and respected. Lyra, too, participated actively, her presence a bridge between her people and humanity. The collaboration between species became a symbol of what could be achieved when curiosity, respect, and courage guided action. One evening, after another long day of debriefings and analysis, Elias and Lyra returned to the observation deck. Silence stretched between them, comfortable and reassuring. The stars shimmered beyond the glass, each one a distant world, a story waiting to be discovered. "You've changed the way I see humans," Lyra said softly. "Not all perhaps, but you represent qualities worthy of admiration, courage, creativity, determination." Elias felt a surge of pride. "That's what humans do. We reach for the unknown even when the odds are against us. And sometimes we find friends and allies in unexpected places." Lyra's gaze met his, steady and sincere. "Indeed, and perhaps this bond will endure, shaping future endeavors, not just between us, but between our species." Elias nodded, feeling hope and excitement for the future. Their journey had begun with a bold question, a human invitation that Lyra had accepted in her own way. It had grown into a mission of discovery, collaboration, and mutual respect. And through it all, humanity had proven its worth. As they watched the stars together, Elias realized that the universe was full of challenges, mysteries, and dangers. But it was also full of opportunities for courage, ingenuity, and connection. Humans were capable of rising to those opportunities, and Lyra's acknowledgement was proof that their species could stand as equals among the stars. "You know," Elias said, breaking the silence, "I never expected a simple dinner to lead to all this." Lyra's faint smile reflected in the glass, her skin shimmering softly. "Sometimes small actions, bold actions, can open doors to infinite possibilities." Elias smiled. He knew that this was only the beginning. There would be new missions, new discoveries, and perhaps even new challenges that would test humanity in ways they had never imagined. But with courage, creativity, and the willingness to act boldly, there was nothing they could not achieve. Together, Human and Andari stood at the observation deck, looking at the endless stars. The galaxy was vast, mysterious, and alive with potential. And in that moment, Elias knew that humans, though young and underestimated, could rise to greatness. It had begun with a bold invitation, continued through daring exploration, and now stood as a promise that humanity's courage, creativity, and determination would shine across the stars, leaving a mark that no civilization could ignore. And in Lyra's steady gaze, Elias found reassurance, not just of friendship or respect or admiration, but of a bond forged in the uncharted reaches of space, where courage, curiosity, and human ingenuity had proven themselves worthy of the galaxy itself.